so let's get started. So first, let's look at what we're going to cover today. So we're going to start by looking at what is marketing collateral. So, giving you a better understanding of what it actually is. And then we'll look at different types of marketing collateral. We'll move on to looking at the reasons for why doing a refresh for your brand is important, not just for the spring, but just in general. And then we'll look at some key steps that you can take. I'm going to have 8 key steps for you to take to refresh your brand. And then we'll just show you some useful resources that you can look at. So let's start by looking at what is marketing collateral. So essentially, marketing collateral is, any tool that's either physical or digital, so online, that is used to market or sell your business or product. So, it's used to promote your brand messaging, and it's somewhat of a takeaway for customers or consumers. So, it's something that for perhaps it's like a brochure that they take away with them, or it's, like a tagline. They understand that that's what your business stands for. So it's anything that helps promote your business. Usually, not all the time, but often marketing collateral will include some type of CTA, so a call to action. So, if it's some type of promo or if it's encouraging them to sign up for something, you'll see that a lot of marketing collateral does include CTAs. And then, it can be used for both, soft and hard sell tactics. So it can be used more to promote like your messaging, your branding, and your products in much more of an emotional way, or it can be like, hard sell, please buy this now. So that's essentially what marketing collateral is. So when looking at different types of small business marketing collateral, there are a variety of different things that people use. So, brochures and direct mail, depending on what your industry is, that can be really popular, particularly for things like retail, sending those out. Sometimes people use packaging.
It could also be for nonprofits. A lot of nonprofits have brochures as well.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's some on the call today.
Yeah. So for packaging, for example, some people use their packaging to sell, as that's their main selling point for their brand. Marketing slick. So with these are kind of like a scale down type of brochure. It's usually like 1 or 2 sided that just kind of gives people like the main talking points about what your brand is about, what your products are about. Any type of downloadable, so anything online that people can download that they can access online. Email marketing campaigns obviously are a huge part of marketing collateral. A lot of times people just think that it's something like physical that you can hold in your hand, but email marketing campaigns are very much an important part of that. And then any type of promotional material. So if you are going to some type of an event and you have your logo or your brand name put on any type of item that people can take away with them, like pens or specific bags or something like that, that's promotional material. And then if you have a press and media kit, that's also considered marketing material, just directed towards the media. So these are all different ideas for specific collateral that you probably are using a lot of these. So when looking at the reasons for why you would refresh your brand and why you'd be like, oh, why do I need to do this? I'm selling and, things are going well. Well, there are a couple reasons, why people would think about refreshing their brand. So the first is, if your target market is not being reached, this is something that would be really important for you, because a lot of times you may start out, particularly when you launch a product, with a specific target market in mind, and then you still feel like, where are these people? They're not buying it. So, if you feel like your target market is not being reached, it's a great, way to kind of reach and, look and see, okay, maybe I need to look and think about a different target market. So definitely if your target market is not being reached, that would be a reason. Another reason is if your current branding that you have is inconsistent with the products that you currently have or your desired marketing message. So let's say you've had your branding that you currently have from the beginning of your business, but over time it's evolved, then you need to think about changing that so that it now works with the current market and the current products that you have. Another reason as well is if you have, desired growth for a specific product line or, just your business in general. So if you're looking to go in a specific direction and okay, I want to target these people, get into these markets, then that's a good reason to refresh your brand. And then also too, if you're just looking to kind of, change your brand's perception and its reputation in the market, that's also a good way to kind of reintroduce yourself into the market. So let's look at collateral refreshing start to finish. So I have 8 steps for you that I'm going to go through and talk about to give you some ideas. So the first step is looking at auditing your marketing collateral. So this is talking about, looking at what your current collateral is and trying to decide what you're going to do with it. So the first thing is, to take a good look at your branding identity. So, looking at anything from your logo to your specific brand slogan to, if you have a specific brand catchphrase or byline, whatever it is, anything that is going to be representative of your brand identity. You can just create a one-sheet document so that you have it all in one place. If it's a specific color that's related to your brand, just so you have that there, so you're really clear of, okay, this is what I have out in the market now towards my brand identity. And then you're going to think about any type of physical collateral that you currently distribute or that you have available to customers, either through sending them direct mail, or for certain businesses they may even work with other businesses where they may place them in their shop, like if it's just a handout or something. So think about where those things are, and then for example, if you did let's say for a retailer, if you were able to place a flyer with retailers and you're going to be doing a refresh, you can just give them a call and say, okay, you can throw those out now, or whatever it is. So be aware of where all your physical collateral is and who's able to access it. And then moving on to online collateral, it's kind of the same thing, where do you have downloadables? So, keep track of, on every page where you would have something that's downloadable, you're going to need to know where that is. If you've ever posted any type of document related to your business in, any type of forum or, a response to someone and, on an online forum where someone could access it, people could download it, just make sure that where all the online collateral is, so that you can, when you go to refresh, you'll be able to take care and replace all of those things. So with step 2, it's looking at defining your strategy and your vision. So this is, after you've gone through and you've done the audit of your current material, now you're looking at, okay, how do I move forward to creating new material? So, the first thing I would recommend is to think big and to think long term. So it's you can always think big and scale down, but it's really hard to, start small and then kind of think upwards. So, think about the long term, in the sense of, how long do you want to keep this branding for? Do you think that it'll be something that could last you, maybe for, let's say a 2-year period, or, think about how long it's going to last you, because you're going to be investing, time and, energy into this. So you want to think about, okay, well, how long do I project that this would last me for before I would need to change again? What do you want to convey to the market? That's obviously very important. And again, that depends on what you're trying to do. So if you're trying to, let's say, change your perception in the market, that's going to be a little bit of a different strategy than if you're trying to, let's say, just enter the market, or if you're trying to enter a new market with a new product. So think about what you actually want to convey, and, what you're going to want to convey with your actual collateral. Think about, how does your brand work against competitors? So how does your current brand work against competitors? How does your collateral, even stack up against what your other competitors have? Particularly for online things, this is something that is a lot easier to access than, per se, if it's a physical store. But if it's online, you can look at your competitor's website and figure out, okay, what do they have? And, just kind of checking out the market to see what's out there. Thinking about, where are you trying to take your product and your business? Again, it's kind of similar to the thinking long term, but, specifically, where do you want your business to go? Where do you see it going? Because that can also, shape, your ideas about what you want your branding to look like, the ideas that you're going to be pouring into the refresh. And then, just thinking about, a forecast for any, are there any, big changes that are going to be coming to your business in the near future? So thinking about, if you or considering a refresh now, but that in 6 months' time you're going to be doing something really big, like launching a really huge product, should you just wait until then? So thinking about, for your business, what are the changes that could occur? So with step 3, this talks about developing a strong brand and style guide. So, it's really important, whether you're a small, medium, and even a larger business, having some type of style and brand guide. It just helps to, really kind of solidify what your brand stands for, but it also gives, anyone working within your business as well as you as well, just kind of a better blueprint to follow so that you are always being consistent with what you're putting out in the market. So, it's usually not that long. For a small or medium business, 3 to 4 pages is enough. You don't even need that much even. And it essentially includes everything from, finalized plans on, the font style that you will use across. Let's say if you have, different fonts that you're going to be using on printed material, but then you have a certain font that you use online. So it will include in detail all those things, the specific brand colors, the logo, the positioning. If you, let's say, are marketing to several different markets and you need to, for example, use, different English, so you'll be using British English in one market or American English in another market. It talks about the specific style that people need to write in when they're going to be writing for your website or your collateral, your printed collateral. It's a way to help guide your team. So if you have, other people working with you, it helps them to understand what's going on, and it helps them to understand how to reach the audiences as well that you're trying to reach. And then it also just, helps to generate a sense of consistency and standards. So it's like that's the blueprint for where you're going to be starting and everything that, you do. So when looking at the 3 C's of great marketing collateral, all 3 of these are individually important, but they all work together. So the first one, is consistency. So, I would say that this is probably, the biggest one in the sense of you need to make sure that you're being consistent with whatever you're doing. So it kind of works back into the style guide. That's a really good place for you to kind of set the consistency for what you're going to do. And then as you implement it, you'll be able to say, okay, I know that on all my printed collateral, this font needs to be used. I know that on the website, these keywords need to be used. So just making sure that you're consistent. And for example, if you're doing some type of, let's say a special holiday promotion and you change your logo or you change anything, you need to make sure that you're going to be updating that logo in several different places, any place that your logo currently is, so that it fits in and that it's consistent across whatever campaign you're running. So definitely when you're doing any type of refresh, consistency is key. The next thing is to be creative. You want to think about, I know that, as a business owner, you're thinking about, what is pleasing to me and what I'm interested in. But you need to think about the target market. What are they going to find interesting? Is it going to be where you're just changing your logo? Is it going to be where, you roll out this brand new website? What is it going to be? So try and think about ways that can be creative and that are interesting to the customer, so that, they feel intrigued to, you feel, you find a way to pull them in. So definitely making it creative, as best as you can. And then communication. So, definitely this is kind of a two-sided thing, but, communication in terms of if you're working with, within your team, so that everyone understands what they're responsible for, but also when you're talking to your market as well. So, don't be afraid to, promote, say hey, we have, this new logo, or we have this new campaign. You can make a branding campaign out of it, a small branding campaign out of it to promote, your change within your refresh. So definitely, try and get that out to the market. And then, you'll find that as you're working on your refresh, that these 3 different things work together over time. So definitely just keep them all in mind. So when looking at B2C versus B2B collateral, I know a lot of people often ask, because, you're in different sectors. But if we're just looking at how they kind of work, there are some differences in, probably the current collateral that you have based on your sector that you're in, and then, just kind of how you would approach a refresh. So when looking at B2C collateral, this is, definitely much more focused on selling the actual product. It talks much more about features. So, on the website or in brochures, it's talking much more about the features of whatever the product is. But it also highlights the benefits as well. So kind of playing more on people's emotions and what they're, why they would want to purchase the product. It uses language, obviously, that speaks to the buyer's perspective. So it's thinking about, if someone is trying to buy this, as a consumer, what are they going to be looking for? What are the keywords that they're going to be looking for? How can I reach them emotionally again? So it's definitely looking at it from, a consumer's perspective. And often, you'll find that, if you're using your current marketing collateral, you might have this as well. But you often find that if you're looking at B2C marketing collateral, it's much more inclusive of things like statistics. So, 75% of people say this helps them or whatever it is. And it often will include like bullet points about buyer behavior as well. So it's much more, again, looking at it from the person and like trying to encourage them to purchase. Now, looking at B2B collateral, this focuses much more on services. So, since it's B2B, what one business can offer to another business. So, the service, or if it's a product as well. And then again, it looks more at the benefits. I mean, sometimes looking at features, but it's much more of the benefits of what this service or product will be. With this, it looks at the language that speaks from the client's perspective. So, what are you going to be able to offer your client? Why would they be interested in, trying to get the service or the specific product from you? And then with B2B, you'll find that instead of the kind of statistical things, it's much more inclusive of like testimonials and quotes, from people that have, tried this service and everything. We do find with B2C that it's much more of like people at this point kind of feel that, a lot of times if companies are just including testimonials, it's just much more like, of their own fluff of what they're trying to promote for their business. So, people are more likely to go and check on a website like Yelp to really see like what the actual other consumers are saying. Whereas like with B2B, like the testimonial, that type of marketing still works. So those are the differences between, some of the differences between B2C versus B2B collateral. So when looking at step 4, which is figuring out your potential cost, I mean, obviously it's, not going to be completely free. You can obviously save some money if you're going to be, let's say, like, building your own website, or, if you're obviously sending out your own emails or whatever it is, you'll save some costs there, but it is going to cost you at the minimum some time. So, you need to think about, the first thing is, will your refresh require any external services? So will you need to hire someone that's going to need to write copy for you, or, going to need to, let's say, do editing for you, or whatever it is, if you need someone to help you with your website. So you need to think about what the potential cost is going to be for that. And again, it's not just the actual monetary cost, but you need to think about in terms of the cost of time. So, how much time is this really going to potentially take you? You need to think about the costs for, even the smallest of expenses. So a lot of people kind of forget that, let's say if they're doing a direct mail and, they know that they want to send out to 1,300 people. Well, you need to think about, how much is it going to cost me if I want to print it on specific paper, have like a mass mailing. It's going to be going to different places across the country or around the world, wherever it is. Like, you need to factor that in so that you clearly understand like what your specific costs are, no matter how small they are. And then the last thing is just to definitely remember that, in terms of like brand refreshing, particularly if you're going to be using external services, like a lot of companies like to do this, during the summertime, or like right before the summertime, and definitely during the holidays. So, just remember that if you're going to be using some type of service that is going to, cater to small businesses, that you want to be ahead of the game, because most people that are doing like a refresher, it's always around like the summertime or the holiday season. So, if you could do it like in an off-peak time, that would be perfect. And another thing too with that is that if you're doing it in an off-peak time, it would be much more kind of a like surprise, and I think like, much more engaging for your customers, because I think that a lot of people kind of expect much more grandiose campaigns around particularly the beginning of the summer and then the holiday season, because that's when people are purchasing and buying so much. So when thinking about doing, using a professional brand consulting, there's so many of these now that, work specifically with small businesses, and particularly now that, you can access them online, you can work virtually. And people wonder, like, should I do this? Should I not do this? Will it be useful for me, as a small business owner to kind of turn some of this over to someone else that can just run with it? They already know what they're doing. So we're going to look quickly at the pros and cons of, potentially using a brand consulting firm that works with small and medium businesses. So with the pros, the first one is obviously expertise. So, these are people that, definitely know about branding, or they should. So they know about branding, they know about marketing. If you're able to sit down with them or, talk with them and explain to them what you want, they're going to be able to, understand, have the vision of what you're looking for. In terms of, your website, your email marketing, making sure that everything is consistent. That's what they specialize in. It's important, because it's fresh eyes for your brand. So, more than likely they may have never heard of your brand before. So, they'd be looking at it for the first time, and it gives you an opportunity to get some feedback and some greater insight from someone who doesn't, is not so close to your brand, and can really give you like some honest feedback on the things that you can change and help you to work on those. Again, since it would be most likely that you would be kind of passing along certain tasks to them, they give you that guidance throughout the refreshing process. So you would be almost like working on things together. They were giving you insight on how things are going, and then you can bounce ideas off of them. So you'd have that guidance to kind of help you along to know that you're going in the right direction. And then again, as I was saying before, there's a lot of these businesses now that cater specifically to, small and medium businesses, nonprofits. So, definitely you don't necessarily have to feel like, I need to work with a big branding company. Like, you can do it, in a smaller way. So looking at some of the cons for working with a consultancy, well, obviously taking into account that it depends on what sector you're in, but, these particular consultancies may or may not specialize specifically in your niche. So it's like they may just have much more of a broad overview in the way that they can help you, thinking about your email marketing and your website and your collateral, all those things that may not be as specific as you might need. Remembering that a lot of times the packages are often all-inclusive, so it could be a situation where if you feel that there are certain aspects that you still want to control. With certain consultancies, you have to be careful because a lot of times, they want to just go ahead and take on the full kind of, bit of it. So they would want you to pass over everything to them. So you just need to keep that in mind and maybe look out for a situation where it would be much more of a thing where you can, kind of choose the services that you want instead of needing to pass everything over to them if you want to still have somewhat of a creative control on that. And then looking at, the lack of the depth on your target market. So, again, like you can explain to them, what you're doing and who your target market is, but, they may not know specifically, like in detail, like the different personas of, like your target customers or whatever it is. So they may not understand that in detail. So just keeping that in mind as well is really important. So those are, kind of the pros and cons of, thinking about using consultancy. And I know that a lot of small and medium business owners do kind of struggle with that. Like, should I reach out to someone for a little bit more help? What should I do? So just to give you some ideas on that. So with step 4, looking at creating a solid timeline, obviously, your time is valuable, and, we want to keep that in mind. So, definitely thinking about, like what your timeline is. So thinking about, when you want it to be finished, and also considering like how long it's going to take you. So the first thing, thinking about, for each specific task that you have, towards your refresh, how long do you think that's going to take you? And try to be as specific as possible. Like if you are a solopreneur, for example, and so you're just one person working by yourself, and that, you can only dedicate like a certain amount of time, like it's okay to say, okay, well, it may take me 6 months to get this refresh done, but, like figuring out like specifically how much time you can dedicate to a task, but also how much you think it would actually take you. When are any key deliverables due? So definitely thinking about, like if you, let's say, are leading up to a holiday and you want to make sure that you have it done by then, you need to have a good idea of when everything is due so that, and actually stick to that plan as close as possible. just to ensure that you actually are on track with what you're trying to do, because it's like if you kind of say, oh, I'll just push back the deadline for a week or two and then something else comes up, and then, we've all been there. So, definitely try and, set key dates for when those deliverables are due and then stick to them. The next thing, looking at, if you want to, let's say, center your refresher around, let's say if you want to do it for your 10-year business anniversary, or if it's a specific event that's happening, or, even if it's towards the holidays or a specific holiday, definitely think about that and then plan accordingly. So, if you know that you're going to want to roll out something for, let's say, 4th of July in the U.S., well, then you're going to need to start pretty soon if you want to refresh for this year, so that by the time that comes around, everything is done. Because remember, things usually take a little bit longer than what you would originally expect. So just definitely keep that in mind. And then leading on to the next point, definitely budget in time for testing and soft launching. So, it's really good to kind of have like a set date of when you want to kind of launch everything to the world. But, remember that, you need to definitely test it to make sure it works. So if it's a website, definitely making sure that, everything on the website looks okay, that it actually works, it can load, definitely having other people look at it for you, and then just putting it out there with the soft launch to kind of get some feelers of, kind of the uptake of it before you kind of throw everything out there, just so that it goes a little bit smoother. So when looking at step 5, so delegating tasks and responsibilities. Now, first of all, when you're looking at this, most of these steps are, I guess you would say, driven towards bigger businesses, but I put this on here because you can always think about this, in a scaled down way. So, the first thing is to create some type of project management document. So, this could be on, a Google Doc or just in a Word document, really. It's just a place where you kind of have everything that is going to be included in your refresh. You have it there so that, it's clear. And if you have other people working with you, that's also important because, it's something that everyone can access and everyone can look at it, just so everyone knows when the different deadlines are. This is when, the brand, this is when, the logo is due. This is when the certain colors, we need to pick these out. So all these different things, make sure you have that master document just so that you can refer back to that along your journey. The next thing, too, is that this is particular for people that, let's say, have different people in their organization that may be helping them. If you want to designate some type of, task-specific leader. So if there's going to be one person that's going to be, working on the email marketing part of the refresher, and one other person that's going to be working on, getting, the printed material. So, even on a smaller scale, you can pick out someone that's going to be doing that. And again, if you're going to be stretching it out over a longer period of time, it's not as overwhelming as, thinking about the fact that, you just need to have your key deliverables by a certain time. As I was mentioning before, definitely set deadlines for your key deliverables and then try to stick to them as close as possible. Obviously different things come up, but, don't, if you really, really are set on launching, let's say on August the 5th, then, don't try to, spread out things too much. And, by the time you get to, end of July, you're like, oh my gosh, I still need to finish all these things because I just kept pushing them back. So definitely, try to set deliverable deadlines and stick to them as close as possible. The last thing I would say is, open communication is pretty important. So, for example, if you're going to be working with a brand consultancy, be pretty straightforward from the beginning about, what you're looking for, what you're trying to accomplish. You don't want to, be wasting time with them creating something or doing something that is not what you're looking for. And the same thing is if you're going to be working with other people, so other people in your business, definitely, have a clear vision and share that vision with them. For what you're trying to accomplish, so that, when people go off and they do things, everyone's just kind of getting on with it and they don't have to, kind of wonder, everyone's kind of floating around like, oh, I don't know what I'm really doing. So, definitely have that open communication, particularly for larger tasks. So if it's going to be something where, everyone's working on, the logo idea or email marketing, whatever it is. So keep that in mind. And then, as I was saying before, for solo and small and medium business owners, just think of it in the sense of you can always just scale these down to work for you. But it's still, pretty valuable to be able to delegate, and be able to share the task whenever possible. So, moving on to step 6, which is one of my favorite ones, creating compelling copy. So I think a lot of times, when people think about copy, they're like, I have this beautiful brochure, or I have this beautiful website, and, people will just come to it and they love the design. That's absolutely not true. As I like to say, design attracts people, but copy still sells. So, when you're reading through copy, it needs to be something that is enticing to you. I think, as we're all consumers as well, that works for all of us. When you go through, if you're flicking through a brochure, if you're, even reading a water bottle, whatever it is, it's still about the copy and about how it reaches you, how it, reaches a specific target market. So one of the things that, kind of can help you with that is to definitely focus on the tone and the brand voice. So you want to make sure that whatever copy you're presenting, is representative of, the tone, so the tone that you're trying to present, but the tone of your actual market. So, does it actually speak to your customers? And then the brand voice. So, making sure that you're speaking within the voice of your brand. So if your brand was a person, what would the persona of your brand be? And then speaking in that voice and speaking to your customers in that way. Definitely speak to your audience and not at them. So, it's much more now about, not so much always a soft sale, but it is much more about appealing to people's, emotions and selling benefits as opposed to, please buy this now. It's people get that. But, definitely speak to your audience and try to, be relatable to them and not just, make them feel you just want their money or, you want them to purchase your service, whatever it is. Definitely consider how, when, and where your copy will be read. This is a really, really important one that I think a lot of people don't always remember. So, for example, you can use the same general copy for, let's say, a printed brochure and online, but you have to remember that, for example, with online, it's much more of a quicker read. People, when they go to a website, they want to be able to scroll through quickly and get through it. So, you may need to modify the copy that you use for online. So definitely think about when you're writing your copy, or if you're having someone else to write your copy. With a brochure, you can be a little bit more in detail, whereas with online, it needs to be much more punchy, to the point. If you're going to be writing it for direct mail, whatever it is, just think about when, how, and where people are going to be consuming this, so that you can make the appropriate adjustments for that, and make sure that it sells well based on where they're going to be looking at it. And then the last thing that I have here is just to, it's really important to be catchy and creative these days, because there's so much in the market. It doesn't matter what industry you're in, there's so much out there. So you definitely want to catch people's attention, but it's not always a good thing to be cheesy. So you don't need to use 5 different puns in one brochure page. That's not necessary. But definitely just try to focus on being catchy and creative with that copy, because it definitely draws people in and people will remember that. So that's really important. I could talk about copy all day. So in addition to copy, there's a few things to think about here. So, one of the things that I think is important is, you should try to aim to include at least one CTA, one call to action. So, it depends on what it is based on what the collateral is. But, first of all, it establishes a connection with your business, with the consumer, but it also is a way for you to capture leads, so that you can let's say if you're having someone sign up for something like a sign up form, and then you can send them an email, and then you can send them a direct mail, whatever it is. It's one thing works on the other. So if you have that call to action there, it's a way to kind of open the door for that relationship with your business. So definitely try to include that on some type of collateral that you have, so that you can establish that relationship. Another thing is using impactful images. Now, this is something that, even a lot of the bigger companies get wrong. So, you definitely want to use, images that are, first of all, relevant to whatever you're doing. So if it's, relate to your brochure, your email marketing, don't just feel like you have to have an image in there if it doesn't work. It needs to be something that is impactful, and that relates to what you're trying to actually say. not just having an image in there just to have one in there. So definitely focus on, having impactful images and images that actually make a statement and say something. The next thing is to think about distinctive colors. So, this doesn't have to be any specific color. It can be whatever you want. But, a lot of companies do, focus on the specific colors of what their brand are going to be. So, if you want to use blue and red for your logo, and that's, whatever it is, make sure that, if you're going to be interested in using, specific colors, make it distinctive so that that's a part of your actual branding, your brand essence. And it, stands out so that when people see that within your industry, they know, okay, that's that brand. And yeah, you'll find that, that's pretty standard. That works really well for a lot of companies. So, thinking about, do you want to establish the importance of your logo? Now, for some companies, their logo is not, the main thing that they use for branding, but for other businesses, it is. So it just depends on, if you want to really go after, having your logo stand as, a really important part of your branding, definitely focus on that. And again, that's going to come back to the consistency. So, any type of distinctive colors that's going to be in your logo, anything that, can actually speak to the distinctiveness. And then, of course, you would include that on all the different platforms that you're going to be using. And then, for testimonials, I talked about this a little bit before, but, I was saying that, ideally for nonprofits and for B2B, testimonials really work well. So, anytime that you can get a testimonial, on your website or somewhere that's, key, like on a direct mail or on a brochure, even if it's on a, a tote bag that people are going to be carrying, whatever it is, just something that is like a takeaway for people. Again, with B2C, testimonials can sometimes be effective, but definitely with nonprofits and B2B, testimonials are still really impactful. So in addition to good copy, these are some of the things that you can also think about including along with your refresh. So step 7, looking at test driving your new collateral. So, this is much more into kind of the soft launch phase. So, you need to, as I said before you kind of toss it all out there, there's a couple of things that you need to do. So, definitely try and seek feedback from an objective source. So, it doesn't really necessarily matter who it is. You don't have to have a specific person in mind now, but definitely someone that will give you that honest feedback. So let's say if you are working with a brand consultancy, obviously that would be your main go-to person. But if you're not doing that, seek out someone that will give you that objective feedback, and in kind of detail of, this works, this doesn't work. When I go to this page and click around, I don't really feel like I know where I'm going. When I flick through this brochure, it's not really working for me. So definitely try and get someone that's objective, that can give you that feedback. Consider A/B testing for online collateral particularly. So essentially what this is where you kind of run 2 different sets of collateral. So for a web page, for example, you may have a certain audience that sees one web page and the other one that sees a different web page. And it's just a way to kind of get a better idea of what people are looking for. So you may do it as you have 2 different versions that are kind of similar, but they may look a little bit different, and you run it for a specific set of time that you can choose. And it's just a way to kind of test out collateral, how is it working, how is it working out for whatever it is. You can do it with print materials as well, but it's a little bit easier to do it online.
We're doing this right now on our website.
Oh,
you
yeah.
might see a different website, or you might not.
Exactly. Came just in time. So, definitely consider that. And then for the soft launch itself, leave yourself 2 to 3 weeks, I would say, maybe 1 to 2 for some people, depending on, what your business is, what your industry is. But, definitely don't just kind of throw it all out there. Do the soft launch. That way you'll have, people that you can kind of recruit in to look at it. You can kind of test what's working out. That's where you kind of work out all the different kind of bugs, if something's going wrong with your website, or, if you at the last minute find a typo in your brochure, whatever it is, you'll be able to do it during that time, so that when you kind of go for the full-on launch, you've kind of settled more of the issues. And then, think about some of your loyal customers. So depending on what your industry is, you may have had customers that may have been with you from the beginning. And you'll find that, with a lot of your loyal customers, they feel really dedicated to your brand or your business. That's why they, continue to come back for your products or your services. So, you can feel free, to reach out to them and, kind of get some ideas from them about, hey, I've, launched this new website, can you spend 5 minutes, giving me feedback? Or if it's a new product, maybe invite them into the store and have them test it out, whatever it is. But, definitely capitalize on that loyalty because they've been with you for a reason. They've been using your products for a reason. So definitely feel free to reach out to your best customers. So when looking at step 8, so you've gone through and, this is the final step. So you've, started by examining what your current collateral is, thought about where you want to go, you start creating it, and you're ready to launch. So, considering that you've done, kind of the soft launch, now you're moving into thinking about the full-on launch. So there are a few things that I have recommended for you. The first one is to, determine what your release date is and publicize it. Now, this works as a way kind of to prevent procrastination, because it's like if you tell your customers or your clients, whatever it is, that you're going to be launching something on a certain day, you don't want to let them down. And, and that means that, it would look bad for your brand, your business. So kind of putting it out there makes it a little bit more real. So definitely, try and, set a specific date and then publicize it. Like, we have this new product coming, July 15th, whatever it is, so that, you kind of have an idea and understanding that you have to get this done, and then it also creates an anticipation for your market as well. The next thing I said was to assemble a last-minute assistant squad. So essentially what this is, it could just be like, even 2 or 3 people. But these are going to be like, people that can kind of help you towards the end with anything you're going to need. So it could just be if you have someone like just looking at your emails to make sure that, your emails flow well, or, like just someone that's going through and checking the logos to make sure that the logos are in the right place, whatever it is, just 2 or 3 people. And, if you have people that are working with you in your business, this is something that you can kind of use them for as well. And then, of course, if you're using a brand consultancy, you kind of already have that built in. But definitely just have people going through copy to make sure that there's no typos there and that everything works. Again, going back to that consistency of making sure that's there. And, as someone that, if you're really close to the project, you're not always going to be able to catch everything. So, having, 2 or 3 or 4 sets of different eyes looking at things can really help you, particularly towards the end before you do the full-on launch. Making sure that all deliverables have an appealing date and time. So, making sure that you are launching, not just at a specific time of year, but, you also want to make sure that you're reaching people like at the right time. So if you're looking to, get a lot of traffic through your website or whatever it is, make sure that you're not sending it like, you're not sending, oh, here's the announcement for the new website on a Sunday night. Like, no one's really going to be looking at that. So make sure that you have a better understanding of, when is your market like most active? When should you, send them an email campaign, whatever it is, just so that you can, kind of get the word out there better and that more people actually see what you're trying to do. The last thing I would say too is, definitely try and forecast, if you can, any potential roadblocks that you might have. So this includes technical issues. So if you know that, it may take you a little longer to, fix things on the website. Let's say you have someone that's working on your website that, works remotely or whatever it is, and you know that, it takes them 2 to 3 days to do a turnaround. You need to forecast that with your specific host server, for example. If you're using a particular company that's hosting your server, kind of try to figure out, if they're going to be doing any type of maintenance or anything, because, things like that actually do happen, during the middle of people's launches, and, kind of all goes array from there. So, definitely try and just forecast the different potential roadblocks. I mean, of course, you can't predict everything that could happen, but if you have that in mind, that allows you to also kind of create some type of backup plan in that case as well, so that you know that, okay, if this goes wrong, then I'll know what to do. And, kind of helps you to feel a little bit more at ease so that you can go ahead and launch if possible. So in summary, I know I've thrown a lot out there, you today, but, looking at the summary of what we're talking about, obviously the first thing is to understand your current collateral landscape. So you need to understand, today you may have just learned that you have like lots of marketing collateral. So, thinking about, like what is your current marketing collateral? Where is it? Where are people currently looking at it? Where do you currently have it? The next thing is to create the vision and the strategy. So thinking about, what you want your refresh to actually look like, what you want to actually change, what you don't actually want to change, because you don't have to change everything when you're doing a refresh. Again, it's a refresh. It's not a complete rebuild. So, just thinking about that. The next thing is to, implement change using the key steps that will help you with the refresh. So again, you don't have to feel like you need to do everything all at once. Don't feel overwhelmed with that, but thinking about how you can implement that. So again, building that timeline out, deciding when those deliverables are going to be done so that you can kind of, slowly implement it, and then you can work towards whatever your, chosen launch date is going to be. Remembering, as I said, that, great copy always sells best, so definitely focus on that. So, if you need to hire someone to help you with the copy or look over it, whatever it's going to be, definitely, don't kind of, just think that, just creating a great design is going to help you. You definitely still need that really great copy to reach customers and to actually speak to them. And then, last but not least, as I've said several times, consistency is so important. So, whatever is, whenever you're doing a refresh, just make sure that you keep that consistency. So, again, from your logo to your brand colors to whatever it is, make sure that it's consistent across all of your different platforms, across all of your marketing, whatever it is, so that you can have the best refresh possible. So we have a couple of resources for you here to look at. So the first one is the VerticalResponse blog. Now on here, we have, so many different articles about branding and marketing and, really anything that you could think of, specific tips for nonprofits specifically. So, whatever you could think of, definitely check out the VerticalResponse blog. The next resource is the CMO Insider. Now, this is a really good creative marketing company, and they focus a lot of different white papers and illustrations on creative marketing. So just to give you some ideas, and they do actually focus a lot on that for small and medium businesses as well. So just to give you some ideas of how you can do a refresher. They talk a lot about logos and brand colors specifically. So definitely check them out. Gather Content Style Guide. Now this is really good because it will help you with the style guide that I was talking about before. So it'll give you more ideas on how you can create a style guide, how you can, kind of even help to develop your brand voice a little bit more, which you will include in the style guide. So definitely check that out as well. And then last but not least, if you're thinking about, if logos are really, really important to you, particularly a lot of people like to, change or refresh their logos around specific holidays and different events. We have a specific website on our small business services portal that will help you to get better ideas about logos specifically for holidays and events. So, all these resources, definitely give them a look.
The VR Small Business Services, it also has some additional things that might help you out. For example, if you're looking for collateral for like a trade show or an event, or you want pens with your logo or stickers or whatever, there's a resource available there as well. So that's kind of a place to go. If you need bags for your retail business, there's information there. So if you go to the Small Business Services page, there's all kinds of information there. Of course, the logo customization, but there's other stuff available as well.